Hi guys, my name is Steve, Heroine's Corner. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing my 2021 in review. Hi, hello, how are you guys? So this video is going to just be me thinking about the realizations I had as a reader in 2021. So this is a very different video to a 2022 reading goals, which I will be doing and putting up, but this video is just purely focused on what I learned about myself in 2021 when it comes to reading. Please remember to follow me on Twitter and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. But let's go on with the video. So the first bullet point I want to tackle is young adult fiction, YA. There's been a lot of discourse about this online recently about like if people are growing out of YA or is YA just become worse. And I'll give my very brief opinion before I go into like what I think YA, my realizations about YA for 2021. I don't think YA has worsened. I feel like a lot of people who were the primary audience for YA when it was having its big boom, I think those people have just grown up, and that includes myself. Do you know what I mean? When it comes to that, I'm not pointing fingers at anyone else. I don't think like we can really concretely like see or quantify if YA has become bad. I think it's definitely become saturated, and I think people are just seeing the same themes and archetypes and tropes, you know, repeatedly when they pick up a YA book, and that's probably why you feel more exhausted or tired when reading a YA. But I think it's hard to like say like straight up, oh, YA's worse now. Like it feels like old people or older people when they say, oh, music was better in the 80s and stuff like that. Like, okay, that may be true, but it's kind of really hard to quantify that, especially when you're not that target audience. And we really should be making sure the target audience of YA, which has always kind of been, you know, 13, 14 to 17, 18-year-olds, we need to make sure we hear their voices when it comes to this sort of discourse, you know what I mean, before it's just says like 20 somethings or 30 somethings say like, oh, YA sucks right now. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's my opinion. But let me talk about YA in my reading life in 2021. Yeah, so I was having this the same kind of conversations people are having recently, really at the beginning of 2021, when I picked up a couple of YAs that I was very excited for, and I was disappointed in them, mostly because I felt like the characters were just too not mature enough for me. And like one of the books I'm talking about is like Wings of Ebony, which was one of my most anticipated books, and it was a real disappointment. And I don't really put that disappointment in the story or like characters, even though the romance was the romance was not, but I don't really I feel bad like kind of saying that it disappointed me, because I feel like that's when I really had the realization that I think I'm just too old for this story. Do you know what I mean? Like, and how can it be disappointed in a story that is just kind of not for my age? But anyway, like, yeah, at the start of the year I was really just like thinking about age ago YA, and then I also read Ace of Spades. I did a whole review on that book, and it kind of really just reinforced my opinion, like I am growing out of YA. I'm kind of tired of whatever's going on in YA at the moment. Like, I need to just read adult fiction. And I really was thinking like, okay, I'm not really going to just pick up. I really kind of turned away from YA for the rest of the year until November, when I first read Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson, and that was a brilliant book. Not as like great as what everyone was saying, but it was still very, very solid read. I really enjoyed it. So I read Grown, and I also read The Gilded Ones, and The Gilded Ones was a typical YA fantasy. I say that with love, not with you know what I mean, resentment. But I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. It was a page turner. Yes, it was predictable, but I enjoyed it. Like, I really, really enjoyed it. So it got me thinking, like, do I like YA? Like, am I too old for YA? Because I enjoyed these incredible stories, like Grown and the Gilded Ones. And then also, I just right at the end of December, I finished Bones of Ruin by Sarah Rowley, and that is one of my top books of 2021. So I'm having a lot of like different discussions with myself about if it's just a type of YA, because if it was just a type of YA, if it was more like serious YA, then I would have really enjoyed the Gilded Ones. And Gilded Ones is a very kind of standard YA fantasy, so I don't know. I don't know. Like, I can tell when a YA is going to be a bit too young for me, and it's kind of just about DNFing the book. Like, it's not about having to finish the book. It's realizing that I'm too old for this and I need to read something else that, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to say that YA is just dumb kid stuff, because it isn't. But do you know what I mean? There is that, I feel that very distinct maturity gap, like, especially having read so much adult fiction in 2021. I can really just feel that difference, very much so. Yeah, like, I'd love to hear your opinions about Grown Girl YA. But yeah, like, that was a realization. It was a sad one as well, you know, because I really used to enjoy YA back in the day. But yeah, maybe I am growing out of certain types of YA fiction, and that's absolutely fine. Another realization I had, which if you follow me on Twitter, you'll kind of already know about, is I absolutely adore historical fiction. I think historical fiction is my genre, and I always kind of knew that historical fiction was a genre that I really enjoyed. Some of the first adult fiction books I read were historical fiction. Like, I read The Miniaturist. I remember reading The Miniaturist, and Remains of a Day. That's kind of historical fiction, and do you know what I mean? I really enjoyed those stories. But it was really this year, with reading Black historical fiction, I was like, oh my god. Oh my god. It was just so brilliant. So many of my top books this year are historical fiction. John Liberty, Confessions of a Frying Lantern, Bones of Ruin. I really enjoyed The Fortune Man. Historical fiction is definitely my genre, and I think I fell in love with this genre so much is because I was reading a lot of contemporary Black literary adult fiction at the start of this year, and I was getting a bit bored. With the constant issues about identity and belonging, and I understand those are very important issues, and I do enjoy reading about them. But I think I just read a lot of books with the same theme back to back to back, and oh my gosh, I was just like, I can't pick up another adult fiction book. And I was very, very close to actually making a video about how adult fiction seems so repetitive. And then I read and then I started to read more historical fiction, and I was like, the issues that were being brought up, they seem so much more, I don't even want to say nuanced, maybe nuanced, but also just like broad. Like, I felt like we were tackling like just a lot of different issues in historical fiction, which we weren't tackling in like contemporary fiction. And yeah, it was kind of odd that was the case, but historical fiction was feeding me. It was really feeding me and nourishing me. Also, I want to bring up like Annie John by Jamaican Kincaid, and Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. Like, those classics, those historical classics, I feel like they deal with so much nuance, so much more nuance than like current fiction sometimes, current like Black fiction sometimes. And there will be a historical fiction TBR video coming very, very soon, because I asked on Twitter, give me all your historical fiction, Black historical fiction recommendations, and I got a ton of responses. So I will be making a video about some of the books from that thread that I will be hoping to read for 2022, because I found my genre, guys. I found my home. I found my literary home. Now, let's get on to this this discussion about reading Black authors and about reading BIPOC authors only. First thing I want to say for this conversation, I will just be using like BIPOC as a phrase. I know it's not the best phrase. I know we shouldn't really even like have a phrase and stuff like that, but just for very, you know, simplicity reasons, I will just be using BIPOC to mean people who are non-white, Black, Asian, indigenous, racialized communities. You know what I mean? Like, that's who I'm talking about when I use that phrase for this discussion. In 2021, I made a declaration, I made a whole video about only reading Black, Asian, racialized communities, you know, indigenous books in 2021 with a specific priority on Black authors. And I made that declaration for many reasons. One, because I just needed to read so much Black books and I just didn't have the time to be reading white authors. And also because, you know what I mean, I wanted to make my channel a place where I really brought attention and appreciated all these books that sometimes go under the radar. I just wanted my channel to be that kind of place on the internet. So I guess the question is whether it was a good idea and whether I'll be taking this forward. I will just be saying that now and not in my 2022 goals video. So firstly, yes, it was worth it. And I will say something that's a bit controversial. I think because the threshold for Black authors to get published is so much more higher than white authors, I feel like the books are kind of better. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just had such a good quality reading this year. That's probably because, like, I feel like Black books or like Asian books or BIPOC books, they have to be an even better standard than the average white book that gets published. Do you know what I mean? That's just because racism. So yeah, I'm not saying that I'm not going to read any books from white authors this year. I think there are some books that deal with a very specific issue and I would want to read more about that issue. You know what I mean, and read that book. So I'm not going to like say I'm not going to read any white authors this year. But I feel like I'm going to say that I'm not going to read any white male authors this year because so many people already read their books, okay? So many people already read their books. I don't need to be reading their books also. Yeah, sorry, not sorry. Yeah. The last thing I really want to talk about for this 2021 review is going to be short books, short story collections. I found out mostly through Thick and Other Essays by Tracy Cotton that I want to really dive into reading more essay collections and short essay collections, and also I want to read more short story collections as well. I just find if they're well written, they're the best things you can read sometimes. Like the mastery of having to craft a narrative or story or idea in, you know, in a small amount of space is just, you know, it blows my mind. I feel like my attention span is so bad these days. Like, it's terrible. I read audiobooks much more in 2021 because like I was able to just multitask and my attention could be split while also listening to the story. While with like physical books, you have to only be reading a book. You can't even like listen to music as well. Do you know what I mean? So like I need shorter books. I need shorter books because I want to read physical books, but like all my physical books are like so chunky. The only bad thing about short story collections and essay collections is that they charge the same amount as like a 500-page book, and it's sometimes hard to like convince myself to spend that much money on a book that I'll read in like an afternoon. So that has been my 2021 in review, guys. Like, I just wanted to talk about all the realizations I had about myself as a reader, and I didn't really want to do that in a 2022 reading goals video. I think that's a kind of different thing, and I'll make all my reading intentions clearer in that video. Please let me know what your realizations as a reader have been in 2021, if there's a favorite genre you discovered, or you think you've aged out of YA now, or just any little thing like that. I'd love to read about them. Please remember to follow me on Twitter, like this video, and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys soon on another video soon. Bye.